This is Ed Keil and Mike Lahoud from New Jersey Baseball. Assistant coach and recruiting coordinator at Frostburg State University, Brett Miller, is taking hacks with us today. Brett, we appreciate you being here. Why don't you kick it off by telling us a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, thanks, guys. Well, first off, I appreciate you guys having me on the show. I really appreciate that, and excited to kind of talk about Frostburg baseball and everything going on in the recruiting process. A little bit about myself. I've been fortunate to have coached at all three levels of NCAA baseball. I started out my career at the College of New Jersey under Dean Gluss. I really thank him for the opportunity of breaking into the industry. And then after a few years there and a lot of success on and off the baseball field, had an opportunity to go coach with Dean Ehalt over at Monmouth University, which is a Division I school in New Jersey. And then, doing that for a year, learning a lot about Division I and the difference between scholarship baseball and the level and everything. Had the opportunity to join the staff at Frostburg State University. And the really cool thing about Frostburg is when I got there, we actually started our transition from Division III to Division II. And that's been something that's really, really awesome to head up the recruiting class from non-scholarship to scholarship baseball players. And, we're looking to continue to the success that we've had in the first two classes at Frostburg.
Well, that's fantastic. Can we pick up on that? We haven't talked to a lot of people that have coached at all three divisions. Can you give us some differences between the two and between the three and what you've experienced?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I think the first thing is when people, assume with different divisions is it's always the talent level. And there is definitely a difference in talent, but there's a lot of Division III programs that would beat up on a lot of Division I programs. And the talent is definitely different at certain levels. I mean, we had the opportunity when I was at Monmouth to go down to Dallas Baptist, who's number 15 in the nation. And that's a whole different ball game down there. High-level Division I baseball is as true as it gets. But, we also play some teams where, being a top 25 team at TC&J, we would have been competitive. So, there is a difference in the talent, but a lot of it comes is the compliance piece. Difference in the roster sizes, the scholarships, and, the dead periods. There's a lot of compliance pieces that I think a lot of people are not really sure they understand that are the differences. And that's what actually separates in the mind of the NCAA between the divisions.
Hey, Brett, it's Mike. I would like to also thank you and welcome you to the show as well. We have a good relationship together, and we thought it'd be great to have you on. You have a lot to offer to the people that are listening and the information that they're looking for in this place and time with everything that's going on. So with that being said, what give us a little idea of how Brett Miller goes about recruiting. Do you have a system? What's it like when you get zeroed in on a kid or you're looking to get zeroed on a position? What's the breakdown? How does Brett Miller go about that at Frostburg?
Yeah, definitely. Well, I was listening to your guys' show last week, and Coach, Panic at Iona, he talked about just, going to the field and just observing, just being a fan. And I do the same exact approach, and I think a lot of college coaches, do that. And when you start, you try to start, very broad, and then as the time goes on, you get more and more details. And the one thing that I think that people kind of forget is you see a lot of things and you hear a lot of things before baseball even starts. One place I love is Domination. And, there's so many games going on and you hear everything, whether it's the parents, whether it's the kids, the coaches, and we pick up on that stuff. And, when we talk about the recruiting process, a lot of people get really, really in depth about it, but I try to be as basic as possible. And the first thing is, I take the recruiting process just like dating or just like a job interview. When you first go into, a job interview dating, it's, the first thing you see is, the person, the appearance and everything like that. So if you're going to a baseball field and you have your shirt untucked and stuff like that, not taking things seriously, we're picking up on that. And that's something that I think a lot of people kind of forget is that, well, we're doing that. So if you're going to go to the baseball field and you're going to go, start working on your craft, take it seriously like it's a job interview. Take it seriously like you're going on a date. There's a lot of things that I think people that they say because it's baseball, they forget, but there's a lot of similarities between, different things. And I always correlate relationships, dating and, job interview as, a baseball player in recruiting.
Oh, that's great. That's a great, I'm going to say different perspective than what Coach Panic provided. Pretty much saying the same thing, but just a little bit different way of putting it together or a different viewpoint to come to the same conclusions. And I think that's good to know, because I would have to think that for each player that goes out there, and say, let's just keep you and Coach Panic as an example right now. If they're talking to you as a possible recruit and they're looking at talking to Paul, there might be different ways, like you said, you just put it in a different perspective with the dating and the job interview, that you guys go about it. But what you're really looking for the same thing. One of the things that I'd like to know, I know some coaches have it and some don't. Do you have something, for lack of a better term, like a grading system or something that makes the process a little bit simpler, to keep it simple so you can keep moving forward if that's what you choose to do with that particular prospect?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, the interesting thing about higher education is that every single college has a different, pro, con, if you want to do it. If I'm a kid, I'm going in, I'm looking for a major, and let's just say I want to be a bio major. And Frostburg State, we have bio, but let's just say, some other school doesn't, that kind of crosses it, off the list. So, I try to be pretty general, and I have 3 areas that I really focus on before we get into the nitty gritty. And the 3 areas are actually what, college coaches are pretty much graded on. The first one is, do our players graduate? So if you want to play for, Coach Miller at Frostburg State, then you are going to have to be able to achieve your academics and graduate. And you're going to have to make sure that you have your transcript down, your SAT down, because if you can't graduate, or you can't stay eligible actually, then nothing else matters. The second thing is how do our guys translate from young boys? Because the crazy thing about college athletics is we are graded, these 3 grading scales are on the actions of 18 to 22-year-olds, sometimes 23-year-olds. And that can be kind of crazy, especially when we have 30, 35 of them. So what we try to do is we try to look for guys who are actually seem like maybe they're 25 in maturity. And that's what we try to do is, we turn them from teenagers into young men, and how they're going to develop once they're done with their baseball career, because the baseball career is going to end at some times. How do they adapt in society, whatever field that they go into? And then the last thing, and this is the thing that we love as much about the game, is wins and losses, the stats and everything on the baseball field. So there obviously needs to be a component to the baseball and how you're going to have success there. But if you're only going 1 for 3 and you're a really good baseball player, but your grades are poor and you're not a good person, you're not going to be recruited, because if you can't stay eligible, you're not playing baseball. If you're going to be a terrible person and get thrown out, going to jail, whatever you want to do, and we can go extremes or less than that, that's not going to work. So I look for guys, I wanted them to go 3 for 3. And I want them to seem like, if I'm talking to them, I'm going, wow, this kid's like 25 or 30, not 17 years old.
Yeah, that's a great point too. We try to talk about that a lot with our players, and I'm sure as well as other coaches at the high school levels, whether it be travel ball or high school ball. There's a lot of little things that they could control that for some reason they don't seem to control, and a lot of it is their grades. They don't realize how important that is. I think sometimes in the minds of young men, like you said, the immaturity level are different, or the maturity levels are different. They think if I'm good enough, I will play. I don't have to study. And as we all know, that's not the case. So that's a really, really good point. I want to digress a little bit too, if you don't mind. You brought something up before, about older players and younger players. What do you think is the most difficult thing for a freshman coming in? And quite honestly, I guess is the right word, they can be going up against 21 and 22-year-old men. What is the big difference there? I didn't mean to throw you a curveball, but I thought that was a good point, because that's something they have to prepare for as well, wouldn't you think?
Yeah, no, definitely. That's a great point. I mean, the first off thing is, if the best player is going to play, the person that's going to help us, when we're talking about on the field, if he's a freshman or he's a senior or, a junior, whatever you want to do it, the best player is going to play. But the reason why seniors usually have more is, one, they're physically just more experienced. They've been in the program longer. Experience is a really, important factor, is that if you've been in a program and you've been in our process, and we're all about progressing. I mean, that's the one thing that, Division I and Division II, if you're not at a Power 5 school, you got to be really, 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 really good at getting players better in the process. And that's a big difference. And we, kind of hinted at earlier was the difference between Division I and Division II and Division III is just developing guys and having the time. But you're 100% right. And just that it's tough because maturity too, coming in, you're 18 years old, you're brand new, you're away from your parents, you're not around your friends. There's a lot of difficult challenges. You are going to fail as a freshman at some point in your career, in your first year, whether it's in the academic side, whether it's at the social side, and you're trying to, talk to a girl and she shuts you down. We all been there. It happens. Or, you get absolutely chewed up your first inter squad. And to be honest, when I see that moment, I get excited as a coach because now it's that humbling experience because we recruit all good baseball players. You wouldn't be a good baseball player if you got recruited to go here. But that humbling aspect is really important. So seniors usually have had more humbling moments and they've had opportunities to overcome from that. So that's, I think, just the lack of experience on all facets and just the physical, the mental, the social, the emotional is really the difference between a freshman and a senior.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree with you 100%. I'm going to stay on this point a little bit longer, if you don't mind. I'm going to ask you another secondary or tertiary question. How important is it to you when you're in contact with a recruit? Whether you're in the evaluation stage or you're at the point where, he's a true prospect and you're probably getting ready to possibly offer that kid, that the communication, whether it be email, text, phone, or whatever else is done out there nowadays, is coming from the kid. Or I should say the player. How important is that to you? Where's that on your level of influence or respect or interest or whatever the term might be for that particular player once you get that serious about them?
Yeah, definitely. Communication is key. With these kids and them being serious, if they can't on their own communicate with the coach, what happens when they're here and they do something wrong? And, I get into them a little bit. How are they going to handle that? Or what happens if I give them a compliment or they can get too high, high on a horse? I brought up dating earlier, and this is a big thing is when you go out on a date and you ask a girl on a date, do you ask the girl on the date or does mommy and daddy come in and ask them? No, you are the one that does it. When you have a job interview, do you go to the job interview or does, mom and dad sit behind you like in our favorite movie Step Brothers? That's the thing. Like, there's no difference in between being recruited, dating, and college. It's just, thinking that. So, parents, we want you part of the process. We really, really do. This is a huge decision, not just for the kid, but the family. I think that's one part I really enjoy about, coaching college is that during this time, this decision is the most important decision that this kid is making at this time. Will there be more important decisions down the road? 100%. But we got to see that. I said, I mentioned I want you to act like a 25-year-old. A 25-year-old can have a conversation with an adult and it be civil and appropriate. And I'm going to be trusting that you're understanding what I'm saying, not having to rely. Are you going to have to be coached up maybe when, you're not, texting or on the phone with me with your parents? 100%. I still call my dad all the time when I have a question, whether I'm talking to something or something like that, because we rely on experience and people that we trust. But at the same exact time, it's a time where it's one-on-one. Baseball's it's a team sport, but it's about individual action. So if you can't have a conversation with the coach, how am I expecting you to be able to take the ball and get us 3 outs in the bottom of the ninth?
Yeah, no, that's great. It's one of the things that we share, and it's kind of like a summarization or summary of what you just talked about. We tell our kids, the school, or in this case, let's say Coach Miller, they have to know that you can survive at school without mom and dad, and sometimes that goes right over their head because it's not what they want to hear. They just want to hit and throw, when you're at practice and you're discussing things. So I think that was a really good point, and I think you emphasized it real well and gave a good example, which made me think, that was such a good example. You said you don't have your parents ask your girls out on dates for you. Is there a story? Everyone likes a story. We're going to go back to the original question that we started talking about with recruiting. Do you have a good story, a good recruiting story that, that might have maybe covered all the gamut of the things that you've discussed? And, you started with this guy over here and then it was over there. And then, maybe he wasn't sure because he thinks he's graded higher than he should be, or where you are as a D2 school. It's something like that can really put it all together, a nice little package and let everybody understand or be an example of everything that you just discussed, or you just laid out for us.
Yeah, definitely. This is actually a good one, and you guys, know him pretty well. But before I get into the stories, just when everyone wants to know the Division I coaches that are there, and I get it, and everyone wants to play at the highest level. And as a competitor and as a college coach, I love to see that. I want a kid that wants to play at the highest level, but there's a lot about finding the right fit. And, the story actually involves one of your guys' players. And, I won't throw his name out there, and I'll let you guys, if you guys want to kind of charm in. But when I was actually at Monmouth making the transition, I saw this player. And this is the first time actually, me and you met, Mike, and it was cool. And we were talking, and I was in completely different, colors. And I knew that this was literally the last day that I was representing, and I was going to take, my talents, elsewhere, if I want to quote, my favorite NBA player, LeBron James. But I saw this kid, and I reported him up the chain of command. And then, what I did is I contacted you, and I said, I want this kid. And the reason I think that first part is really interesting about this story is that, when you talk to conversations with, other college coaches, our business, we changed, schools, and that's just kind of how it is. So you may, blow off a coach that's a little Division III coach, and then all of a sudden a year or two down the road, you're looking to transfer, and now all of a sudden he's at a Division I school, and all of a sudden it's, oh, boom, wow. That's it. I still have kids who I remember seeing as freshmen in high school when I first started out at TC&J, and then now they're in the transfer portal, and I'm at a different school, and they're talking, they're like, hey, I remember being out of camp. So, I think that's kind of really cool. And I mean, me and you talked about it, and this player, he wasn't sure about Frostburg, and you know what, you said, hey, honor the conversation, be respectful, and you know what ended up happening? He found he found the right fit in Frostburg, and he started for us as a freshman, and batted 3-hole for us. So he found everything he wanted, and sometimes you may not know on the surface what's going to go on, but doing your homework and taking every single opportunity, because that's the one thing I think kids should really cherish. When a college coach talks to you about coming to their program, cherish that opportunity, because there's so many kids out there. And right now there's going to be kids that are not having an opportunity just because of what's going on with this virus. But if you just throw away an opportunity, potential opportunity, and don't do it, it's almost disrespect for the people that don't have it. So really go through those opportunities. Not every single time is gonna make sense. When I reach out to a kid, sometimes it's not the right fit, and I don't know it yet, and he doesn't know it yet. But that's something that's really, really important. And I appreciate you, Mike. You told this player to reach out, and worked out for both of us, and we're definitely really happy about it.
Yeah, well, I think all three parties are happy, including the families. So that's a great story. I know who you're talking about, and I'm going to say the name because he won't mind. He's actually going to be on the show next week. So it's AJ Campbell, and I think people should know that, because now they could see, people who know AJ can look at him, the way he works out, the focus that he has, his grades. He's a beast. And he's not only a beast on the baseball field, but he's also a beast in the classroom. So now people can look at him, or other players or peers can look at him and say, okay, that's how it, actually, obviously he was a D1 prospect and a D2 prospect. That's how they go about their business. So I'm going to throw that name out there, and I'm sure his head won't be able to fit in the door when he goes to dinner tonight, but that's all right. That's all right. But that's a great story.
Don't worry. We'll make sure that his head, shrinks before he gets back to campus. He has some time to worry about that, but we'll make sure that his head gets through the door.
And I'm sure you'll be able to get it back down to size. That's no doubt about that. Brett, appreciate the insights that you provided for us. Is there anything that you want our audience to know about Frostburg State in general, or general about the baseball program?
Yeah, definitely. Well, the one thing I was hinting at with, AJ is finding the right fit. And, I'm not going to, first talk about Frostburg, but I'm going to, challenge kids out there to do your homework and take the opportunity and find the right fit for you. There's actually, before I came on the call, I looked at the transfer portal from last year and this year. And I'm just going to throw some statistics out for everybody. Last year, and it started the transfer portal a little bit later, but there was over 1,500 names in the transfer portal, over 1,000 for Division I, a little over 500. And then this year, we're not even done with the season yet, and we're almost at that number. once again, with 1,000 being at Division I, about 500 Division II. So there's a lot of kids, changing, and there's a lot of things going on. And with everything going on is finding the right fit, because this is the most important decision that a kid's going to make at his time. Let's not make it twice. There's a lot of things. It doesn't hurt. It hurts the kid. It hurts the family. It hurts his teammates. It hurts the coaching staff. We want to try to get the right fit. So when I'm talking about Frostburg, I'm only talking about Frostburg. I'm not trying to put Frostburg over top of anyone else, because I believe in the product that we have at Frostburg. We're a brand new Division II program, and we got a lot of good talent coming in. We have returned a lot of good talent from our Division III program. And we had some success early on. We had some failures early on. We like to keep it, as real, if you want to go it, at Frostburg. We look for guys that we grade them on, it's called grit. Grit, energy, and leadership are 3 qualities that we really look for in a guy. And that matches kind of how our program is. Our program is a blue-collar program that we're going to get our hands dirty. We're going to work really, really hard. And that's something that, we want to look for guys. Are we going to be able to identify a good baseball talent? Yes, but we want that extra piece to see that, okay, you can't say that kid is, he hits, we can run as much as he wants. He can hit for all the power. We want that kid that has those intangibles that maybe we can't see on the surface. And then in Frostburg, just as an institution, we're out in, the beautiful mountains of Western Maryland. We're about 2 hours away from DC, about 2 hours away from Baltimore, about an hour and a half away from Pittsburgh. So there's some pretty cool, large cities, and, Northern Virginia. So we have a lot of connections to the federal law enforcement. We have a co-op program with the University of Maryland for engineering, which is great. So we have a lot of unique majors, and I think that's something that really kind of separates us, is that we have beautiful, facilities, we have beautiful campus, but we have a lot of interesting, majors, and you got to find the degree first and then the baseball program. And I think we are able to achieve that at Frostburg.
And you definitely do. I mentioned early on in the podcast that, we have a good relationship with you. You have AJ, you also have one of our 2020s coming in, and Justin Jimenez for this fall, that I know all parties are excited to see him take that jump up. And you guys, you do it the right way. And I don't mean this to, embarrass you or anything, because it's nothing to be embarrassed about, but I share frequently with other people that you're probably one of the hardest working recruiters that I've dealt with. And I've been doing this, long enough to know the difference. And, and I think you're starting to see the results of that in your program. You're probably starting to land kids that maybe, if whatever that is, it's a relative, what I'm about to say, it's a relative term, but could have went to a bigger program or whatever someone thinks a bigger program is. And you're doing a good job. And, and then the school backs you up with a great education and all the options that you say. I do believe, you have a couple courses there that you actually could, and correct me if I'm wrong, can graduate with a Maryland University degree, if I'm not mistaken? Yeah,
so that's the co-op program. There's, the engineering program. It's actually University of Maryland degree, which is a top 10 program, but it's, you take all your classes at Frostburg. So you almost kind of, for that major, mechanical engineering, it's almost a double whammy where you get, one of the best degrees in the country, and you get to still achieve everything that's, great about Frostburg, especially, being able to be part of a top, hopefully eventually, top tier Division II program. I'm saying hopefully and eventually, because we only played 15 games this year. So it's I got to be honest that, we're still getting there, but, we're definitely in the right direction.
Yeah. People are probably not aware that, you brought in a really great, I like him a lot, new head coach this year, and Coach Anthony, and he got a little shortchanged. Huh? He was probably biting at the bit, and it was over before he even realized it started. And I felt bad with him in that regard. But I'm sure he's working hard, knowing him, and getting ready for whatever the next step is, whenever the next step is. So, it's you've got a lot of good stuff going on down there. And I don't know, unless there's something else, I'm gonna let you answer that before I close out. Unless there's something else that you want to bring up, something we missed, or something you thought of that you should have brought up, I'll let you do that right now. And if not, just tell me no, and I'll go ahead and we'll close the show out. A lot of great content. Again, content we're looking for is information that can actually be a little bit entertaining, but we're concentrating more on information that can be used by not just the prospective players, but the parents as well, because this is murky waters for them. They don't know, and I don't mean that in a negative as far as, dirty or dangerous, but it's the old, they don't know what they don't know, and anything that we can provide them, is important, and you've definitely done that today. So is there anything that we missed or something that you want to say, or you think we pretty much covered it today?
I mean, the last thing I'll just say is that, what you guys are doing with this, I think it's awesome. And the biggest thing is that you're getting perspectives of different people. And I think that's the one thing that's challenging about the recruiting process, is that there's not one clear-cut way. Everyone's different. Everyone has a different GPA. Everyone has a different talent level. Everyone's looking to achieve different things. So there's I wish I had all the answers. And that's why I try to keep mine as, vague and simple as possible to hopefully gravitate and capture as many, people as possible. So I think this is awesome. And, I know we've talked, a lot about this, in the last couple of weeks, and, listen to Coach Panic at Iona. I thought that was awesome. Everything he said, I actually have, I know him pretty, I've seen him a lot. So, hopefully we can get on the recruiting trail. I can see him, so we get to know each other more, and every other coach you bring on. We like to compete against each other, but it's a lot of fun to meet the guys. But I think this is awesome. And that's the last thing I kind of want to say, is that, and what I'm saying could be completely wrong for someone, but it also could be completely right. And I think that's the challenging thing, is so as an individual, listening to these, podcasts and everything else, just, understand, relate to what, relates to you, and just work hard, and, good things will happen if you continue to work hard.
Well, I appreciate that support. When Ed and I first talked about doing this, like I said, we wanted to get information that was usable and be entertainment as well. I mean, we don't want people falling asleep and not hearing that information. And so for you to see that, from your side of the desk, as they say, as a valuable piece, I appreciate that. And that's a great segue to finishing it off. And I appreciate you coming on and giving us the Frostburg way and the Miller way, because I know it works. I've seen it in action. And, I joke again, and I don't think I've talked to you more than 3 times in a row without you being in a car, at least 2 of those 3 times, traveling to or from an event. And you know what? That's respectful, and that's kudos to you. So thank you for the support. Thanks for coming out. Thanks for making the second so-called episode of Taking Hacks with New Jersey Baseball a very successful one. And I will be talking to you soon, my friend. We'll see you around.
All right. Thanks, guys. I appreciate it. Stay safe.
All right.
Join us next time when New Jersey Baseball 2019 players AJ Campbell and Jimmy Pasquale are taking hacks with New Jersey Baseball.